You ready, Coach Kevin?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you know what? I'm not ready. There we go. What's up? I don't know if anyone's coming. Anybody's on the chit chat. Doesn't look like it. Maybe they'll join us later. I don't know. How you doing today?
It's Friday.
It's Friday. You have any good plans for the weekend?
No.
No?
I'm gonna help babysit at some point.
You're gonna help babysit?
Probably gonna train a little bit.
You're gonna train a little bit?
I hope so. I need to schedule it. What else? More babysitting.
Training and baby? Baby training?
They do a private lesson. Definitely private lesson.
Private lesson. Are you a private dancer?
Not anymore. I haven't taken my clothes off for money in years.
I read this story today that I thought was interesting about this gym in San Jose. Oh, we gotta fix our heads. You're fine.
A gym? Like an
gym.
academy?
No, like a gym.
Like an Orange Theory?
Not an Orange Theory. I don't know. I've never been to this place, so I don't know what it's like actually. But it's not an Orange Theory. That's a corporate place, and they would never do such a stupid thing as I'm going to explain to you.
Uh-huh.
So this gym, you want to guess what the stupid thing is that they did?
Does it have something to do with opening up?
Yes, or not even opening up, but just staying, not closing.
Uh-huh.
So apparently this gym decided
Freedom?
that,
For freedom?
for freedom,
freedom.
for constitutional rights, decided they just weren't going to pay attention to the county who, said, hey, listen, you need to close. Do you want to guess what the fine is that they're looking at right now?
Is it $5,000 a day per person?
I don't know how they calculated it, but
More than that?
I don't know how many people, I can't remember that because of the total, well maybe, the total fee or the total fine is $550,000.
Yeah, sounds right.
I don't know if that's per person though, because
Sounds like per person.
if you have 10 people in the gym, and they've been open, I don't think
Maybe
they've,
50 people, right? No.
well I don't know. I think,
100 people.
well let's say they're open for 100 days.
Yeah.
They're open for
It's
3
not
months.
just,
So I think they must not have tacked on the number of people.
Yeah.
But essentially,
So
they
that
keep
was
sending them.
The entire.
I don't know the exact I don't know how the fine was calculated,
Huh.
but
Maybe he's already in severe debt and he's just like,
add it to my bill.
Like,
you
yeah.
know.
Can't get any worse.
Well, that's where you're wrong.
I don't know, like if you're
Well, I
already
mean, he's
like.
still in business, so I mean, I was thinking, it would make business sense if the fines were low enough and your rent was high enough that you would stay in business.
Yeah.
Right? You were just like, okay, either it's a wash or.
Yeah, but that's not this case.
I don't think so.
Probably not.
I don't get the sense. I mean, I don't know what his rent is, but
It's probably
it's
close
not.
to that.
I'm sure for
Well,
500,000 for a year. No.
Yeah.
For this, I mean, I saw the space. Like if it was a big industrial space or like a big,
Yeah, maybe.
you know, like one of these, like if you go to a shopping center,
Well,
you know,
in
like
a
a big
shopping-
Target or something. Like maybe they pay
Yeah,
that
but
kind
that's
of money.
like a commercial space. Most gyms are like in industrial areas where.
This is like a strip mall. You know, look like a on the
yeah,
street
it's
strip
already on
mall.
the high end, probably higher.
But it was. It just baffles me.
Why?
I don't know what the thought process is. Is the thought? I mean, the person is a business owner, right? Like they should know how to do math, and they should have a sense of, right? Like
Yeah.
the government is not like. Is he just saying like I don't have it, therefore you can't make me pay it?
Maybe.
So I'm just gonna stay in business?
Maybe he has it and it's not a problem. Like,
Well, that could be true too.
Silicon
But
Valley.
I don't know anyone. Well, maybe, I mean, I just don't know enough rich enough people. I don't know anyone who
Just
just
shut up.
is like, yeah, 500K, whatever.
I mean, if
I guess I won't get my 5 McLarens this year.
I don't know. Yeah, it does seem unlikely.
I don't need a couple more Ferraris or whatever.
But this is Silicon Valley. Like, there are people who could do that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Easily.
But they could easily, just as easily, just close down then.
Yeah, but if it's like a principle thing, then you can just like.
Maybe.
Do whatever you
That
want.
seems like a terrible
So
principle.
yeah, I'll take the fine. Yeah, it's not like I wouldn't do it probably, but I'm not in the same position.
Yeah, and you ought to be grateful for that too, because that's $500,000. I also think that, yeah, I'd just be interested to talk to that guy and be like, okay, so
Yeah.
what's your plan?
Well, is it like I'd be interested in knowing if it was like a gradual, like they get a letter, they get a letter,
Yeah,
they get a
it's
letter.
there's letter, stop.
Or like-
Okay, here's your first one, 5K. Here's your second one, 10K. Here's your third one.
What if he just like changed addresses?
That doesn't. It's not. I mean, he still has a gym.
I'm trying to think of reasons why you would just let that much money, like that much debt pile up, or that much, whatever the word is, impending payment.
Oh, it's
That's
dead.
Yeah.
It's a debt.
Well, isn't it like a bill at this point?
Well,
It's a
they
fine.
have to go. They're going to have to go to court and reduce it to a judgment, right? So there'll be a court, some sort of hearing, at least an administrative hearing. I don't know if it'll be court, and then they'll have to challenge it, right? So yeah, he probably has a bill. And then, well, it's an interesting question because usually what they do is they take a lien out on you.
Yeah.
Right? So they get a, I don't know how it works in California. There may be some sort of like
DV.
administrative lien. Like you know, like I've seen this before where, you know, you have to like register with the Secretary of State. They can suspend your business license, they can suspend your corporate license. You know, and then it makes things very difficult for you to operate.
When
They
happens,
put a lien, and so they put a lien on your bank accounts.
is the business responsible for paying it, or is the individual who owns the business responsible for paying it?
It depends on how you structure your business.
Like if you were an LLC, could you just like close up shop? and-
Well, you would. So the thing is you. It's called piercing the shell, the corporate shell. And what happens is, like, if you have a corporation, the idea of the corporation being a separate legal entity is that, you know, it's insured, right? It's liquid. And what that means is, you know, it has a bank account with some assets in it, and it can, you know, you can collect a judgment against it, right? So that's the thing. It has, you know, like as a business, I have a business. It's a legal entity, right? It has insurance. It has its own kind of like personhood, if you will, right? So if somebody gets hurt, knock on wood, or wants to sue, like my landlord wants to sue me, or whatever it is,
Yeah.
they go against the corporation. The corporation has assets,
Yes.
right? Now, corporations don't always have like the most assets. You know, I'm not ExxonMobil or anything, but
But
if,
you're
on the
not-
other hand, all I have is like, it's a shell, right? And it's just like, it's basically, I treat it like my own personal piggy bank, and I don't keep it insured, and I don't do all the things that are necessary in order to maintain a separate corporate personhood,
Oh.
then they call that like a alter ego.
Ah. Okay.
And then the person, you can't evade your debts just by creating a shell corporation. I mean, people do it all the time,
Yeah.
but legally, you shouldn't be able to do it.
Huh.
Just by saying, I mean, I had a case once where this family, these two people, they created dozens and dozens of corporate shell companies all over the world, basically,
Yeah.
to try to hide their judgment from New York State. And you know, we had to chase them. It was like a 20-year case. Like it was started before I was in college.
Yeah.
And by the time I got it, there had been 20 years of proceedings. There had already been trial. There had been judgments. There had been investigations, like, you know, in the Bermudas and in Panama. And, you know, these guys were prolific, you know, fraudsters. They knew how to, you know, do it. It was like a shell game.
Yeah.
So the thing is like, I'm trying to remember how much, you know, New York State was pursuing those people for. I mean, the money actually was beside the point. I mean, it's probably like 25 million, I want to say. And the state pursued, which is not that much.
It seems like
it's
a lot of
not
work
that
for
much.
That much money.
But the thing is, the wheels of the state start to turn.
Yeah.
They don't stop. No one ever says like, oh, it's 25 million, forget it. It's like once the matter goes, unless someone decides like there's a good reason to stop it, people don't just like give up. It just gets handed
That's
down.
just work.
You know, it just is another thing for another
Yeah.
assistant to work on, right? And so it finally rolled down all the way to me. I mean, honestly, like the procedural history of this case, because I was in the Court of Appeals for this, and you have to set out the procedural history. And it was like this long, like soap opera saga of a procedural history, and you know, I had to spend a lot of time just writing down or figuring out what had happened. But my point is just like, this thing's $500,000. It doesn't sound like that much in the grand scheme of things, but if the county decides like, we're gonna start suing for it,
Yeah.
they're gonna take it all the way. And they have to do it, because if they don't, then the next time something like this happens, people are just gonna be like, oh, the county, they're pushovers, so we can just ignore it.
Yeah.
So there's a strong institutional incentive, you know, to chase these guys down.
Yeah, but like, now's the time where there are going to be a lot of people who are not going to be able to pay their debts.
There's a difference between, yeah, well, I mean, look, they can declare bankruptcy. If that's their plan, fine, but I don't understand,
Yeah,
like, if that's your plan,
That's
then...
the plan that I was talking about, right? You just
Yeah,
declare
but
bankruptcy
why?
and walk away.
So, there's some things, I'm not a bankruptcy lawyer, so I don't know, like, what you can and can't get out of,
Yeah.
but I don't understand, why would you keep operating and then you're bankrupt? I mean, everything kind of falls apart. There's no good, I don't know if it's going to restructure. I don't know if you can get out from under that debt. There's some types of debt that you can't get out from under.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's one of them.
I don't know.
You know, maybe he's a really good lawyer and they figured out their game plan. And they know that, yeah, maybe they can declare bankruptcy and the state can't come after them. That will get discharged in bankruptcy. I hope that's what they've got going. Somehow I doubt it, though. It's kind of like all the Trump rioters who figured they'd all get pardons.
Do you think so?
Yeah.
Weird. I feel like riot.
Which actually was not an unreasonable kind of expectation.
He pardoned a lot of people, didn't he? Pardon.
I mean, yeah, but they're all rich
Kodak
people
Black.
who essentially paid for their pardon.
And
Maybe not to
then
him
Lil-
directly, but to
and Lil
people that
Wayne.
were connected to him.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the money that got paid to these for pardons,
Yeah.
these are big paydays. Yeah. For the lawyers. I was just reminding me of, you know, whose initial fine, the jiu-jitsu, the jiu-jitsu school. I don't want to call them out on me, on YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
But
They stayed open till they couldn't.
till they, I mean, that's the thing. People are like, oh, why don't you just stay open? Because I don't want to have $500,000 in,
Yeah.
you know, in a lien on me, you know, worrying about. I have enough to worry about. I don't need trouble with the county.
Ooh, I have a question.
Yes.
How do you feel about snitches?
Snitches get stitches.
I mean, that's what they say.
What is a snitch? I mean, look, I think depends on your situation, right? I mean, I think some people call them whistleblowers. I think that's the right term for them.
Oh, yeah?
Well, I think if you are, again, it depends on the situation. I think if you are acting from a position of integrity, right? Like I'm just a regular worker and I notice something that's out of place or illegal that's happening, and I call and I want to like inform somebody because I think somebody's going to get hurt or whatever. Well, I think that's fine. If you're a member of a criminal organization or whatever, and you are having second thoughts about your criminal enterprises or conspiracies, and you want to like kind of walk yourself back from the edge of whatever insanity you're planning, then it's not a bad move, right? Like you have to do that. You have to take, right? If you want to disown a conspiracy or disown a criminal enterprise, like you have to take. You can't just be like, oh, I'm gonna sit this one out, guys. You know, you have to take affirmative steps, right? You got to call the FBI or whatever, the police, right? If you're the hitman, and you're like, oh, maybe I don't want to really do this anymore. You got to go snitch on your client.
Oh God.
If on the other hand, you're just like trying to get special treatment from the guards in a prison, I can see why the other prisoners would be mad at you, right?
So snitching is sometimes good, sometimes bad.
It depends on it's one of those things where, you always had that kid in school, the tattletale, you did the littlest thing, and you would run off and tell the teacher. And it wasn't like it mattered.
No.
Like it was like totally irrelevant. It's just this kid
practicing like his power. Like he's trying to influence people and get
whatever,
what he wants.
but there's no like reason, right? It's not. On the other hand, like if you're out and back of school setting fires, right? Okay, then he or she should probably tell the principal.
Yeah.
And so we always have that like you want to tell your kids like don't be a tattletale and don't so and so did this and that was it because they're trying to get somebody in trouble because they're just trying to be trying to make trouble for little things. Oh, I heard somebody say a bad word.
I know people who are like that.
Right? I mean, did you hear what they said about so and so? They're like a rumor. Like
Eric does that. I'm gonna call him out. Eric McGowan does that.
No.
Or does he? Oh yeah, he'll come up to me. I used to work with him, and he'd come up to me and he's like, "Man, like so and so has been talking crap about you. Like, what do you think about that?" Like,
are you gonna stand for that, Kevin? Yeah. You're gonna let that guy punk you out like that?
Yeah, I guess.
Troublemaker.
But
Yes. Well, that's actually kind of amusing. That's a little different.
It's a little
it's like
different.
causing intentional trouble for fun. I mean, harmless trouble is kind of funny, right?
But like, where's the line? Because it's like you are causing trouble. You could be causing someone calamity when you do that.
Yeah.
Because one time we did it and it was like the wrong person, and it's just
For you or for him or for the other
it was
person?
for me. It was just like that, and yeah.
Were you gonna be really mad?
No, it was just like not a situation where normally it would have been appropriate, but he found like the moment he didn't realize that it wasn't.
You weren't in the space for that.
Yeah, it wasn't a time for humor necessarily, and it just kind of exacerbated it. But this kind of goes back to loyalty.
Yeah. But I don't want to suggest, right, like, that's the other thing, right? If you're part of a gang or you're, like, engaged in some sort of criminal activity, I think it's kind of silly to expect your fellow criminals to be honorable.
Why?
Because you're a bunch of criminals.
Yeah, but
I guess it depends on the criminal activity we're talking about, but, I mean, they always say there's no honor amongst thieves.
Yeah,
I think if you are a thief, you need to bear that in mind.
I suppose that does make interpersonal relationships between thieves difficult. Because there is that, like...
Not a lot of trust.
Yeah. It's missing. But, I don't know. I feel like if you create a psychology of in-group, out-group, you could...
I mean, you can do it, but it's, at some point, people will opt for survival. Right? So, if you're given an option of like, okay, well, this is your only out, or your best out. You know, like it's like the guys who get caught and they get, you know, the FBI turns them and say like, look, we have you dead to rights. You're gonna start working for us now. You're gonna be an informant, right? Mm-hmm. And here's your option. We can either, you know, arrest, charge, try, and imprison you for whatever number of years, mm-hmm. right? When you ruin your life, or you can cooperate and you can go on with your life.
That doesn't sound like the land of the free.
What do you mean? I think it's a pretty good deal if you've already been engaged in some sort of criminal conspiracy. You're getting a good deal.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense when it's all laid out like that.
I mean, I think when you engage in those types of things, that you have to consciously accept that you are forfeiting, potentially, you know, those rights, right? If I'm engaged in something that's against the law, I should be conscious of the fact that if I get caught, I don't have rights to freedom anymore. I'm going to go to jail. Mm-hmm. Or at least there's an excellent chance of me going to jail for breaking the law. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, sometimes that kind of plea bargain and cooperation agreement can be pretty one-sided, for sure. Mm. But you always have a choice. You can always choose to go to trial and take your chances with the jury.
You only really have a choice if you're informed, I think. And in most cases.
Well, maybe you should have informed yourself before you. I mean, most people understand that what they're doing is illegal. Most of the time.
Illegal,
not all
yes.
the time.
Immoral, no. Illegal, yes. Immoral, no.
I mean, whatever. Right? I mean, there's that old adage, you do the crime, you do the time. You know? Like, if you think that, yeah, you stand on principle, then you have to understand what the consequences are.
Yeah.
And that I mean, sometimes standing on principle will score you points with judge and jury, or even prosecutors, you know? Mm-hmm. But, you know, there's always those instances, like there was this guy that I read about, his daughter, you know, basically started, he got hooked on drugs, and then she, you know, basically just started doing prostitution, right, to pay off her debt or what have you. Mm-hmm. And he tried to go to the guy and be like the pimp, and be like, I want my daughter back, right? And the pimp's like, no. And so then he went and he shot and killed him.
Who went and shot?
The guy went and shot and killed the pimp.
Oh.
And was like, okay.
It's probably not going to solve the problem.
Right? Well, it's going to solve that immediate problem. That dude is now dead.
Yeah, isn't the immediate problem like her drug addiction and then
well,
her underlying
yes,
problems?
yes and no, but like he, you know, as the father, what I'm trying to get at is if you have a father on the jury mm-hmm. or a mother, right, they might identify with that. That may be seen as a morally just or at least somewhat neutral act than like, hey, I'm just going to murder this guy because he owes me money.
That happened to the guy, I forget his name, but yeah, it was like a martial arts instructor ran away with his kid, and then they were going to court, and then pulled out a revolver as they were walking in and shot him in the head, and then I don't think he got any time. I think
sometimes the prosecutors won't charge. Sometimes
like, we get it, we understand. You have to do like a lot of community service, but you know, I think they were very lenient given the circumstances. Or like considering this.
You know, they had the whole thing where the girl was, you know, she shot the guy who had been sexually abusing her for like 10, 15 years. And they sent her to prison. Yeah. You know, and then I don't know what happened to the end of her story. But, you know, if I had been on that jury, you know, I don't know what I would have done, but that would have been a compelling argument to me. It's kind of like the abused women who like, at some point they
drown the kids?
No, they kill the husband or they kill the boyfriend or whatever, but they don't do it in the heat of some sort of fight or battle. They just like wait for the dude to be asleep or drunk and then they off him.
Yeah,
you know?
Fun.
So they are, like when you look at that, they're like, yeah, it's premeditated. You know, it's you laid a trap, they call it lying in wait.
Yeah.
So you laid in wait.
You had time to think of that.
You really planned it out. You did a lot of planning. This was not heat of the moment,
Yeah.
right? And so they'll hold all those things against you. Whereas, like for me, I'm like, well, yeah, because this dude has been beating the crap out of this poor person. You know, she knows or he knows that like, if they fight back, they're just gonna get in the moment. They're gonna get crushed because that's happened before, obviously. So yeah, you got to do a little planning, think ahead. You know, wait for that bastard to be asleep, and that's when you take him out.
Like if you can plan that much, you can like plan to get a bus ticket or something.
No, but see, that's the thing. It's like these people, they're isolated, right? Like they don't have access to the money. They don't have access to, you know, they're watched. You know, they don't have a feeling that they're trapped.
I feel like
I think a lot of them, if they could get away, they would have gotten away. It's that they can't get away.
If you have the willpower to kill a person,
I think it takes a lot. I think it takes a lot more to kill somebody than it does to run away.
yeah.
Running away is easy. I mean, unless you have kids that you're leaving behind or something like
No,
that.
like I agree with you.
But so that's what I'm saying. Like if I had a choice,
Yeah.
somebody's like, I'm in some terrible situation. I can either run away on the one side, or I can kill the guy
Yeah.
or whoever.
Yeah.
I'm gonna run away.
That makes the most sense.
So if I can't run away,
Yeah.
or if the decision is I'm gonna murder, either I'm a murderous person, I just like to murder people,
Yeah.
or and you're giving me a good excuse,
No.
or B, I feel like I'm trapped, I can't get away. So therefore, my only option
Well,
B is murder.
but if you're lying in wait, that's time that you're not feeling trapped, right? That's the
Oh, I
whole
see what
point.
you're saying, because they're asleep or whatever,
They're
you can
asleep.
get away.
Go
Yeah, but
outside.
how far can you run? You have no money, you
I
have
don't
no
know,
resources.
You managed to load a whole gun
Maybe,
without this
here's
person
the
to
thing,
wake up.
maybe you've run away before, or you've tried to,
Uh-huh.
and you caught hell for that,
Uh-huh.
right? Maybe you tried to do it before,
Maybe.
and then that didn't work out, so now you got killed.
How come when Americans try something and they fail, they never just like modify the original plan?
They go straight to murder.
They just like throw that out like
We're just gonna burn it all down.
Plan
This voting doesn't work, let's just burn the whole place down. We lost that election, let's just kill them all.
like you don't learn anything from the first experience and make.
Yeah, you learned you should have shot that guy the first time. That's what you should have done.
I don't
You're
know.
probably, as you're catching your beating, you're like, oh man, I'm not making this mistake again. He's getting a bullet next time.
Well, of course I wasn't there, so I don't know the situation.
No, I mean, that's the thing, but
I don't know. Killing someone should.
that should be the last possible. I agree. I'm not advocating murder.
It should take effort. I think at least the first time.
It gets easier as time goes on.
I mean,
I think that's usually that's the consensus.
that's how any skill building.
Right.
Just get better. That'd be a weird thing to get good at.
Murdering people?
Yeah.
Well, if you're like in the military, if you're like a Navy SEAL.
That's not murder though.
Yeah, it's kind of murder. It's killing.
It's killing.
It's murder.
It's not murder.
It's totally murder.
The murder.
There's that
happens.
dude like way out there, like 3,000 yards away, and you plop him.
Yeah.
That's murder.
If you had a gun, it's killing. If it was like a 3-year-old, then yeah, it's probably murder.
What about the guy who drops the missile from the Hellfire, Predator, the Hellfire missile from the Predator drone that just blows up the whole goddamn wedding?
Yeah, that's.
They're like, okay, there's that guy who's really bad, and then there's a couple other dudes we think are pretty bad, and there's like 50 people here for the wedding.
Yeah, that's a mix of killing.
Launch, go!
Yeah.
People get upset about that stuff.
Then they should.
I mean, on both sides of the equation.
Yeah. Yeah, that's.
I agree. I
Isn't
mean,
that like a war crime type?
that is not. It's not going to win hearts and minds. Let's put it that way.
What?
Bombing villages and shooting up weddings.
Well,
although I will
yeah,
say, like,
but
if you're like, if this person's like a known terrorist and you happen to be just
it's pretty cool.
social acquaintances with the worst terrorist that the U.S. government wants to blow up with a missile, then you're probably not the greatest person
Let's
either.
not drink the U.S. Kool-Aid that far. But what's really cool about drone strikes is they're developing like really interesting technology that is supposed to minimize civilian damage.
There you go. Yeah.
Like I've seen things of like one where instead of exploding, it just shoots out like swords out of the side, and it'll just like chop you in half. And they managed
That's
to.
awesome. I
Yeah,
want to
it's
see
like-
that.
I'm conflicted about it. It's pretty cool, but it's still like I feel a war crime. But
Why?
because you're going into someone else's nation and just like killing them without.
Yeah, but
Like,
that dude has
giving them
done
a
something.
chance
To
engage
murder
in war.
like Americans or like American
I'm
allies.
not saying it doesn't have the
Usually.
good out
Usually,
there.
unless it's a
I'm not
mistaken
saying- I'm not
identity.
saying you can't analyze and find some good in it. I'm just saying it feels like a war crime to me. And I quit them.
War crime, you know, freedom strike. I mean, who's to tell, Kevin?
It's weird. It's weird. But
You say French fry, I
it
say
does.
freedom
I'm
fry.
sure it saves a lot of money.
Whoa. And lives.
Yeah,
American
but,
lives.
like,
And American lives are worth more than any other life on this planet. So, I mean.
It's like $20 for a box of shells.
What's that?
What?
I don't know what you're saying.
Anyway,
Life is cheap, but not in America.
bullets are cheap.
Bullets are expensive right now. There's a massive bullet shortage. As anyone who actually uses bullets can tell you. It's an outrage, and I wish people would stop hoarding things so I could buy them up and hoard them myself. Yeah, there's a massive powder and bullet and primer shortage right now. And ammunition shortage.
I wonder if we're going to declare war soon.
On whom?
Whoever.
Poverty,
Nah.
ignorance.
Don't most shortages like this come right before like
I don't
military
know. I
happenings?
don't know that. I mean, this is the conspiracy theory, right? This is where there must be some nefarious, secret reason why there's no ammunition. But the fact of the matter is that, the last time this happened was the last time there was a Democratic president where people who owned guns were like terrified that, the feds were going to come around and take all their guns away, even though there's zero chance of that happening.
Makes sense.
But then people get, like I say, it's not right to be like kind of concerned, right? Like if,
Aren't you going through the same concern just through a different lens?
what do you mean?
Like
Yeah, the lens of scarcity. 'cause
things
people
are
hoarding.
happening, so let's get all the things that we might need just in case.
Like
including
what?
bullets.
Like what do you mean?
Like the same. Supplies are scarce, so
Well,
there's demand.
no,
so
this is
we need to-
natural, right? Like, I think if people have so there's been this like huge uptick of gun sales, like a
Yeah.
lot more people, like millions and millions more people, 4 or 5 million more people in 2020 bought guns than previously. That's a lot of guns. That's a lot of guns. Now it's not clear whether they're all first timers or additional guns for people that want to just, make sure that all their members of their family are well armed.
Yeah. Maybe it's just because people are getting ready for schools to go back in session. Sorry, that's an American joke.
No,
That
sorry.
wasn't funny.
I don't understand that joke.
It was a school shootings joke.
Maybe. Ha ha. You're a sick individual. The views expressed by Coach Kevin are not the views of Samurai Brazilian Jiu Jitsu,
You laughed. but you
Lester
can't keep
Games,
track.
or Richard Jackson,
You
or
laughed
any.
for real.
I laughed at your ignorance and sadistic humor. I think and then also it's like you have the pandemic, so you have people that are worried about like the breakdown of civilization.
Yeah, that's what I'm
And
talking about.
That didn't happen. At the
Well,
breakdown of the toilet paper supply chain
There's
and the hand sanitizer supply chain.
Yeah.
It's like the same thing. And I don't blame people, right? I share that concern. But like going to the supermarket and buying like 10 cases
The bullets?
of whatever is not the right answer, right? Because then that means that nobody can, there's somebody who's going to wind up with no cases of toilet paper, and they need toilet paper.
Yeah.
I mean, technically, you don't really need toilet paper, but you
Okay.
don't.
Okay, it's fine.
There's a lot of places in the world where they don't have toilet paper.
The Pats as well didn't have toilet paper.
They didn't have to, I mean, there are leaves. There's shower heads. There's things that you can do.
I like to do it like chinchillas do.
I don't know if I want to know what chinchillas do.
They use sand baths.
There you go,
Just
sand baths.
throw some sand up there. Just kidding. Back to front always. What were we talking about before this? School shootings? The impending economic meltdown because of the market collapse.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of things. Like, we always like to think, like, there's this, you know what it is? And I totally share this in the sense of, like, I definitely have a inclination towards it that I have to kind of rein in a little bit, which is the apocalyptic scenario inclination. I don't know what it is. I think there's something in the in sort of the American psyche, or maybe certain parts of the American psyche, that are very fearful of the imminent collapse of civilization. You know, this either whether it's the second coming of Jeebus, or
Like in all those,
civil war that's going to break out, or
all those movies are like Game of Thrones, are like, oh, war is coming.
yeah,
Winter's
we get a lot of that.
around.
Yeah, we get a lot of that stuff. You know, this
Yeah.
apocalyptic end of the world. You know, you better be. There's a very strong prepper
Yeah.
community out there, which I actually think is
It's kinda
wise.
fun.
It's not. I don't have a.
If you live in California, it's probably a good idea.
Well, there's lots of natural disasters that do happen that
Yeah.
you should be prepared for. You should have a couple weeks of stuff put away if you live in California, or if you're in hurricane-prone areas, or
Every place on Earth has their natural disaster. I can't think of one that doesn't have its own thing. Right? Like
well, I mean, there's
Australia's
natural
typhoons.
disasters, and then there's just like bad. So like Pennsylvania doesn't really have natural disasters.
Really?
I mean, there's no.
You don't get tornadoes ever?
Yeah, you get tornadoes, but it's not like there's not like tornadoes that just like sweep through and just like level
Really?
miles of shit.
What
Very rare in Pennsylvania, and not only changed because of the environment, but
about ice? You guys get ice?
I mean, there's ice sometimes.
Floods.
Some floods, but not like catastrophic. It's not like Louisiana, like
Yeah.
all of New Orleans is gonna like be underwater, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the closest is like New York. You know, they had a terrorist attack. That's a disaster.
Didn't they have a hurricane in New York? at
Yeah,
one
they're
point?
you know, by the time they get there,
That counts. That counts.
it's not like California when the big one hits.
Yeah.
It's probably gonna be pretty.
I'm not
ugly.
saying every place has a place where.
Here, I'll say
this
this, right? Like when I was in, like every place I've ever lived has had something happen,
Yeah.
right? Pennsylvania, not really.
Maybe you were the thing in Pennsylvania.
Well, I mean, I'm thinking in Miami, there'd be hurricanes, and
Yeah.
you could be out from power for weeks at a time
Yeah.
in the middle of the summer, right? And without power means like no refrigerated food, like unless you have a gas stove.
No hospitals.
You know, you're kind of done. You're done there. That is Lord of the Flies. You know, so California. There hasn't been any, but there have been fires that have wiped stuff out there.
Do you think though in events like this, like that people will lose any like sense of order and decency, or like is the sense that like it's all gonna go to hell, or is it like
Every community is different.
Yeah.
Every community is different, and and even within an area, there might be little micro areas, right? So, you had situations where, for example, in Louisiana during which hurricane was it? This is way
Katrina?
back. Which one?
Katrina?
Maybe it was Katrina, but there was a situation where
Sandy.
where people were coming over the bridges, right? Looking, because they're totally flooded out.
Yeah.
And there's like sheriffs from the county on the other side of the bridge, and they're like, no, we're not allowed to come here. And they like fired them, right, with shotguns. And these are people that are fleeing because there's floods. They're like, their homes are underwater. They're scared.
That sounds like Katrina.
So maybe it was Katrina, but you have that situation where not only will people not help you, right? They've lost everything, right? Everything is gone. No one's coming to help them. They have no food. They have nowhere to live, and they're trying to go across. And you have sheriff's deputies that are there on the other side of the bridge with shotguns, being like, no, like stay over there.
Yeah.
That's the police. That's not even like a bunch of vigilantes.
Yeah.
So I think people have some degree, like if you were going to say to me like, oh, is it unreasonable to be self-sufficient for 2 weeks or a month?
Yeah.
You're like, no, that's a really good idea because you don't know who's at the end of that bridge. And if you're black or you're, brown or whatever,
Yep.
people they revert back to the lowest common denominator real quick.
Wait, what are you saying? Can you just re-clarify what you just said?
I'm saying that if you're trying to get over a bridge, I don't care who you are, you don't know who's on the other side of the bridge if they're going to let you come across.
Yeah.
And people will.
Which
I'm talking about white people in this case, right? But look, everyone goes down. Like when you are worried about your food, and you're worried about your children, and you're worried about your life, right? You're worried about your survival. Things can get ugly really quick.
Yeah.
and you get frustrated, right? Because no one's coming to help you. Like you expect, like, oh, the police are going to come, or the firemen are going to come, or somebody's going to come and help you.
Some sort of safety net.
When you're like, hey, come help me, and they're like, keep your distance, or we will open fire. Like to me, that's like that is tantamount when people complain about people are looting in those situations. I'm like, look, the social contract has been suspended at that point. If you're going to point guns at me, or I have to worry about somebody killing me because I'm looking for help, well, yeah, I'm going to break into the corner store and get some toilet paper and candy bars or something. Survival.
Yeah.
That's not. I don't think it's. I want to say it's right in the sense of like in the grand. Well, maybe it is right in the grand scheme of things. It's probably still illegal, but there's a defense of necessity, right?
I think a sense of like strong individualism and the willingness to go on a dangerous adventure is a strong American value.
Mm-hmm.
But especially like that comes from like our expansion into the frontier. I almost wonder if living in a post-apocalyptic society would somehow be more meaningful for people. Because
I think we all think it's going to be like, Mad Max or something.
yeah. But like there is a nice sense that like once everything is gone, you have survival to worry about. So it gives you a very strong, concrete sense of, I guess, purpose is the word. Where like you have something to deal with. Like maybe it might be like too much at times, but
I think that we have this fantasy, but I'm not sure that we've ever actually evolved in modern. I'm trying to think of times. Like there's certain areas that have definitely evolved into like warlordism, right? Where or pure tribalism.
Yeah.
But even I think people tend to. There's such a strong social and communal nature in humans, right? I mean, we've evolved to cooperate and to essentially to trust at least a small group, the family group essentially.
I think my point is that like in an apocalyptic situation, I think that like the social aspect that you're talking about will be actually increased, right? Because we're no longer connected to phones, technology. We're not.
Well, then you have to really trust the person that is like manning the barricades with you, or going out to hunt with you.
You're going to communicate with that person.
Yeah.
And you're going to get to know them, and you're going to have this level of understanding of those around you that I don't think.
Well, this is why like early humans are family groups,
Yeah.
right? Like the groups, and then it extended from those family groups. That's why you still have tribes, right? Those are extended family groups, and they're because you can trust to some extent your brothers and your sisters and your mom and your dad, and then removing that. Like some people have said, like Western society is really the movement from that kind of tribal basis to a non-tribal,
nationalistic usually.
Yeah, and so then now we're all Americans,
Well, like we've had this conversation before, like from other like European nations or African nations or Asian nations, I guess. It's easier to have a nation because like all of your people have been like living together for more or less like the last couple hundred years, right? With the exception of like some groups of like diaspora communities. But with America, like our nationality isn't really based on like language or religion.
No, it's based on like
logic, like this logical.
It's based on a shared. It's like we're all refugees, so to speak.
Yes.
Right, up to a point.
Yes.
And so we share the same love of freedom to pursue opportunity. Right? It's the idea that hey, if I'm not constrained by family and caste and clan in this country, although to some extent we still are, right? That's not stuff that you can get rid of.
But it's definitely the celebration of the individual over.
Well, because why? Because you can't celebrate the family, you can't celebrate the clan, because those things are not really.
It's not socially acceptable.
Well, if the bedrock or one of the bedrock principles is like, hey, if you're good at what you do and you work really hard, you should be able to rise on your own merit. That's the story. That's the story. And if that's like a story that appeals to you and appeals to enough people, and we all agree on it, then you can build something off of that, I think. Now some people still cheat and totally nepotistic or favor, hey, I only like white people, or I only like
whatever. If I'm an Indian man, I only hire other Indian men. Whatever, right? Like that happens, for sure. But I think as a society, right, we're all kind of like, everyone says, oh, we're all a society of immigrants. You know, we all came here for a better life. And I respect that. Like, I feel like I respect anybody who comes over here, leaves everything, you know, whatever they had in their, wherever their family came from. And they came here to start a new life, and they work really hard. Like, when I hear that story, and I've heard it a lot of times, like, I have a deep respect for that story, you know, for that person and their family. Because I'm like, I respect that. Like, that's something that, you know, it's not like, oh, what country do you come from? Oh, what religion are you? Like, I don't, that stuff, some people really care about that. But for me, it's like, okay, I don't really care what religion is. As long as you're not, like, hurting people as part of your religion.
Yeah.
You know, there's got to be some balance there, but, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm not sure everyone shares that. Some people just look at somebody who comes from another country and say, oh, you're stealing my job.
Yeah.
Okay,
Some people put.
There may be even something to that, really. I don't know.
There are a lot of communities that put the family group over the
Yes.
idea of nationalism.
Well, like, you have,
I would say most people, generally.
what's that?
I would say most people put family over nation in America.
Well, you see a lot of people who go and fight for their country, you know, against the wishes of their families,
Yeah.
right? A lot of people say, you know, why are you, like, let's say you're black or you're brown or whatever, and you come from some sort of oppressed minority group, and you go and you sign up for the military, somebody might legitimately say, like, why are you going to fight and die for this country that shits on you, right, in some way, or shit on us, or shit on whatever. And, you know, a lot of people have gone and done that and say, because I believe in the principles, you know, if not the execution of those principles.
Yeah.
You know, and that was like the Kennedy quote that you sent to me. You know, these people have fought with honor in defense and died, you know, in defense of the country. You know, we should just, if they ever needed to earn their citizenship, then that's one more reason,
Yeah.
right, to respect them. So. But yeah, I think we have this sense that there's going to be the end of the world. I don't know why. There's this like latent sense. I think a lot of people worry about it.
I think there's just the feeling of, and it's been going around social media, like the feelings of the lack of unity between sides of politics.
Yes.
Where, I don't know, the whole idea of nationalism is that everyone in that nation should be able to kind of agree on at least like a number of principles. But more and more it seems like it's becoming harder to do that if you, like in the way that we conceptualize the groups of people. There's like just this constant disagreement, and it's just like getting worse and worse. And
it's interesting to see, you know, a group of people, a not insignificant number of people, who are growing. And this isn't just people on the right wing. There are lots of left wing people too. That are disenchanted, you know, with the political system. It's kind of like the Bernie supporters who they're like, well, if it's not Bernie, I'm just not voting.
yeah,
You know? Or even if it's not Bernie, I'm voting for Trump because I hate the system as it stands. You know, which is baffling, but okay. It's just like a burn it all down. This is not working kind of situation or mentality.
yeah.
But you have a significant group of people who feel that they don't have like a voice, quote unquote. They're not being respected or understood. And you know, what's kind of shocking in a way to me is the willingness to attack kind of the foundations of the society. Like, you know, having the nonviolent transfer of power is kind of like one of the hallmarks of our democracy.
Mm-hmm.
That we don't have like a coup attempt, you know, every 25 years or every 100 years for that matter.
We just shift it back and forth between two groups.
Kind of, but those groups change too, right? Like
Yeah.
it's not rock solid. It's like kind of a fluid, and you see people's allegiances change. I was reading an article today about Prop 22, which is the gig worker, the Uber, and I think it's Prop 22, but the Uber and the Lyft and all the DoorDash drivers, and you know, Democrats, obviously the tech companies want this. right? It's very profitable for them, you know, and a lot of very liberal, progressive politicians, Democrats, were in favor of creating a special category, basically allowing the, you know, DoorDashes of the world to pay very little to people who are driving these cars, and so they can't unionize, they can't be paid as employees. And the point of the article was like, it's really shifted, like Democratic politics has really shifted
Away from the people and towards
away
corporations.
from unions, like away from the idea of like, we need to protect people, like regular working people.
Yeah.
And who are we shifting the
Tech companies.
we're shifting to people who have all like a ton of money already,
Yeah.
right? And
There's a word for that. Isn't that what like the principles of neoliberalism, where it's like still capitalism based, but still with like left-leaning like philosophical ideologies?
well, I don't know of all the label.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I've heard the term neoliberal. I don't know. I know the term neoconservative, but I don't know I don't really know where the labels apply.
Honestly, I've only heard like neoliberal in like a pejorative sense, where like.
Well, the article pointed out that like that what happened with the Democrats was with Clinton. You know, he essentially adopted, and others adopted, a lot of the conservative principles.
Yeah.
You know, the free market, you know, big company, big corporation principles of Reagan.
Yeah.
And conservatives. And so then they, you know, they ran with that, and they created this sort of leftish kind of alliance with big business. But they're selling out the unions.
Oh, what's the word? Technocracy?
Maybe.
Something like that.
But it's a very interesting thing to think about, you know, people who are disenchanted. Like if you think of like in 2016 and this year, you know, you used to talk about Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and, you know, like the Rust Belt / Blue Wall states. They're all heavily, you know, manufacturing, blue collar, union, and now that is crumbling. Like that is no longer a rock solid. And the Democrats now have moved out. And of course now this election was a little different because they had such a polarizing figure in the Oval Office.
Yeah.
But now, you know, the Democrats and the liberals are more party of like the coasts, and even if you're not on the coast, it's more like the liberal, you know, suburbs. Like,
Really? I thought it was cities typically.
like when you think about, Philadelphia's certainly, right, like the big cities, but then outside Philadelphia, you've got this ring of counties. I forget what they have a name for them, but it's essentially like where those counties, where they swing is where the state's going to go, because they're heavily populated, and heavily populated with white professionals, essentially. So it's the Democratic Party is now, according to this article, is now appealing directly to white professionals, right? The people in tech,
Yeah.
you know, and other similar types of companies, as opposed to the blue collar union, you know, voters who now are kind of like they're part of these dying industries, quote unquote dying. I don't know if that's true, but that's kind of the impression.
Yeah. Well, wasn't that whole Rust Belt like propped up by coal and like coal?
Steel, coal, manufacturing.
And once you stop using coal, you can't produce the same steel.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if that's true.
Not the same ethics.
You know, I definitely don't know that history very well. And, you know, like now what you have is, you know, you have a lot of other companies from around the world who want access to our markets, and they put their factories here, and they hire American workers, like BMW, like they have Toyota, like there's like more Toyotas that are produced in America, you know, than probably anywhere else in the world, and so that creates jobs, as opposed to, you know, and I don't think that went over easy when that was proposed, right? Like, I'm sure the unions of the big three automakers did not like to hear that Toyota was going to start building plants.
Yeah.
You know, and they kind of raised the fuss, and maybe they were rightfully frightened by that prospect.
But that's like the free market, right?
What do you mean?
Like if a person wants to buy land, build a factory, and start producing vehicles, like why do they have to be American necessarily? Like why can't a Japanese?
Why does a company have to be American?
Yeah.
Well, because look, yeah, it's all nice, it's all well and good to say, yeah, we have an open free market, right?
They're making
But
jobs.
does Japan have an open free market? Is any American company free to go over to and build it? No, it wasn't. So that's how it works. There has to be some reciprocity, right?
There is. They create jobs here, and our people get to eat.
Yeah. Well said,
Thank
Mr.
you,
Japanese ambassador. Right? But that's what they're saying. They're like, we can't sell art. So there's massive tariffs that are placed on U.S. goods in these foreign countries. And so we're not playing on it even we have, like, yes, in theory, we would like to have a totally free open market. But in practice, there's a lot of people who actually don't like that. Have very vested financial interests in having a very closed market. And of course, it's not so simple ever that it's like, well, it's just the auto manufacturers that we have to worry about, or the auto unions. There's a whole other ecosystem around all of these things that you have to. There's other stakeholders you got to that have opinions.
Fun.
And who have their own pressure points.
Yeah.
I remember this I don't know if this is directly relevant, but I had a case where the state or New York was like, we're not going to let people use food stamps to buy soda or any kind of sugary beverage like a Gatorade or anything like that because it's just bad for you. There's no good.
That's not true, but okay.
No, it's totally bad for you.
Calories are good for you. If you're poor, you probably need calories.
Well, everyone needs calories. That's true. But in general, if you said, is it net positive or net negative?
Net positive. To stay alive, always a net positive.
It's not a question of whether they eat or not. It's a question of should they use taxpayer money to buy Coca-Cola.
What if it's a diabetic and she's going to
fine. If it's a medical emergency, you can use your thing. But if you're just feeding your kid Mountain Dew, right?
Yeah.
With your food stamps.
Probably shouldn't do that.
That is bad. That is bad bad for the kid, just objectively bad. But it's also bad for the state because then that kid is going to have health issues.
Yeah.
All otherwise that the state also has to take care of because that kid, if you're on food stamps, you can't afford health insurance.
Yeah.
Right? So anyway, that was the logic of it, right? Without getting into the actual argument, was like, hey, we are the ones who are paying for this stuff. It's like your mom gives you some money and says, go to the store and buy some milk and some eggs, and you come back with candy bars. Your mom's gonna be pissed off, right? It's the same idea. The state's your mom. Anyway, so you'd think these food advocates would be on board with this. Yeah, you're right. We should be, helping people make good decisions, right? No, you'd be totally mistaken. They were totally against it. Do you want to know why? You want to guess why? Because the beverage industry of America gave them a call and said, hey, listen, who is New York to say what your people can and can't? That's very patronizing and insulting, and don't these people have their own dignity? And by the way, I think it's time for us to have a partnership. And so, you know what, just to show our good faith, we're gonna send you a check for $10 million. What's your budget for this year? Oh, you have a budget of $10 million? Well, you know what? We're feeling extra charitable. We're gonna give you $20 million, and we're gonna do some advertising. We're gonna give you some free Gatorade. We're gonna hook you guys up because we gotta stand together against the man.
That's the most American thing I've ever heard. Oh my gosh.
And these people, they totally were. I mean, the advocacy groups were like, "What are you doing? How dare you? That's so patronizing."
Where are their $10 million?
What do you mean?
If their point is so valid, they should be able to produce $10 million to bribe the organization to not allow sugary drinks.
You mean the state?
Yeah.
That's not a bribe, Kevin. It's a partnership.
It's a partnership. If being healthy was
well, the funny thing is the
great,
state does fund a lot of these guys, right? Because they do get state funds.
Yeah.
But you can't win that battle, right? The Pepsi and Coke get together. And they're like, yeah, well.
That's what America's all about.
And meanwhile, you have these poor little kids that are getting Gatorade.
Coca-Cola wouldn't be as popular as it is if nobody liked it. The Americans have spoken. We've given them all of our money, and now they get to make decisions. That's how it works.
There you go. That's how it works.
I mean, that's the fact. Vote with your dollar.
That's what the cigarette industry said too. And now they pay the states $20 billion a year because they and I'll tell you what. At some point, they've already tried to do this. So they're going to try it again. They're eventually going to win, just like they did with smoking. They're going to be like, hey, Coca-Cola, whatever. You guys know that you have this terrible effect. You've always known it. You've hooked the people on this stuff. It's evil, and we have these massive medical bills because you guys are so goddamn greedy. So now you're going to have to pay us. Eventually, that's probably going to happen. And people are going to be like, oh, what about personal responsibility? No one's forcing you to drink. Yeah, but what about the 8-year-old kid who all he gets is Gatorade every day? Gatorade's the worst. Yeah. And another case about Gatorade is if you are
I thought it was smart water.
Well, that was our client. It was Smart Water. Was it Smart? No, because Smart Water was owned by. It was.
50 Cent owned Smart Water, right?
No, he owned Glassau. No, is that I don't have some
Beats?
French. It was those. I forget the name of it, but it wasn't Smart Water.
Okay.
This was Propel. We
yeah.
we did Propel, and Gatorade is owned by Pepsi, essentially by the holding company that owns Pepsi. But we had to do this research about. I had to get an expert about all about Gatorade.
Yeah.
Gatorade is awesome if you are like a marathon runner, if you are a defensive tackle practicing in summer in Mississippi, yeah, in hot weather, right? For long periods of time, yes, Gatorade, awesome.
If you're not sweating, don't drink Gatorade. That's the rule.
Even if you are sweating, like if you're just driving around and it's hot because you don't have air conditioning, probably not a good idea to drink Gatorade.
Drink your Gatorade if you're sweaty. I think you just like to be a little bit sweaty. At least we gotta have a line somewhere. If you're sweating, Gatorade's for you.
I mean, that's not a bad opening rule.
Yeah. You know, if you.
I used to drink so much Gatorade.
Yeah.
I used to drink so much Gatorade because you think it's good for you. You're like, oh, what's salt water? What?
It's sugar water.
It's totally just packed with sugar.
If you keep drinking it, you never crash.
They actually have these mathematical chemical formulas of how much salt do we put in this that keeps you so the whole thing with Gatorade.
A formula wouldn't it just be like a number?
It's a number, whatever. I don't know. But they've developed it so the idea is the reason why Gatorade is better for you, quote unquote, than water.
Because it's got what plants crave.
It's because it's because when you drink water, it's just water.
Yeah.
Right? So at some point, especially when you're hot, you stop being thirsty, you drink a lot of water, and then you just stop because you get too much water in your stomach, right? You just feel like waterlogged. I think is what we call it. With Gatorade, because they've salted, they always say it's replenishing your electrolytes.
It's the salt and sugar. Sugar does it too.
So when you drink that, what it does is it triggers your thirst.
Yeah.
And so it's like drinking salt water, right? Why shouldn't you drink seawater?
Yeah.
You just keep drinking, and eventually you die because it's bad for you.
Yeah.
But it's the same similar idea. They put this a certain amount of salt and sugar into it. You keep drinking it, and it is good if you actually do need over the course of 2 or 3 or 4 hours of serious exercise. Yeah, that is something that's important. But yeah, if you're just some kid and you're just drinking and drinking and drinking, that is bad. It's good for Gatorade.
Yeah.
Because Gatorade's selling a shit ton of Gatorade. They manipulate you, Kevin.
I used to drink a lot of Gatorade.
So did I.
When I repaired tennis courts.
That's hard work in the summer.
It was just hot.
It's hot, yeah. I mean, yeah.
But yeah. It's gross.
Just waiting for the Gatorade memos to get leaked by some whistleblower.
But Gatorade has a place. You know, working out. I don't know, even working out's kind of weird. If you're working, Gatorade's good for if you're doing a job. You know, you gotta keep.
If you're being active and you're drinking Gatorade, you're probably fine.
No, I feel like if you're working out, if you make a habit of drinking Gatorade while at the gym, that's too much sugar. But I don't know. If you're working, I don't know.
If I just got some 20-ounce thing of Gatorade right now, after we did this class, and I just chug it.
That's the wrong time. Why would you drink sugar after you work out? Drink it before so you've got
It tastes so good when it touches my lips.
It's weird. Protein after workout, sugar before.
Let's see if anybody actually tuned in today. Let's see if Connie or Cameron.
I've got
Oh, Cameron's there. I don't know what we're doing. Are we live? I think Cameron left us. He's a.
It's Friday. Got stuff to do.
So I published that. I posted that 2-stripe white belt thing. Do you see that?
Yeah, I saw it.
And now he's selling. I haven't been posted that because I don't want to encourage that. I actually think this is all a big scam.
What?
The whole thing.
Just someone bought a bunch of social media accounts to blow up this particular meme so that they could sell a bunch
Kind of like GameStop.
Yeah.
It just seems like he went from talking this crazy shit about tapping somebody who we don't know where this academy is, like we don't know who this person is,
But
no
that's
one
not-
from his academy that I know. I'm not following this that closely. But, you know, so then he turns around and pivots, you know, to, hey, and you hear, like, so here's the thing.
Yeah.
This is what trips my BS alert. This is the conspiracy theory, right? You ready for it? I'm gonna admit that this is conspiracy theory.
Great.
Could be totally false. You have guys on, you know, big, very popular people on
The accounts.
or whatever, what's it called?
The Facebooks.
The Facebook account, the Facebook page.
Yeah.
Tom DeBlass. You have the guy who runs, because it is a BJJ Fanatics page. So it's like a BJJ Fanatics fan page.
Yeah.
And so, you know, you get people on there like promoting their videos and whatever, that's what it's for. People talking about, asking questions. And so Tom DeBlass comes out and is like, hey, don't be so hard on this guy, you know, blah, blah, I don't approve, but, you know, he doesn't know anything, you guys don't be so rough. And then the other guy, I think his name's Todd Schaefer, I could be misquoting him, or his name, the same thing, you know, like, oh, you know, whatever. And then the guy turns around and like the next day has this line of like clothing, like t-shirts and hoodies,
Yeah.
you know, micro adjustments and, you know, sneaky back takes and all this other stuff. And the Schaefer guy, who's like, I think he's a co-owner of BJJ Fanatics or whatever, he's like, you know, usually we don't allow people to sell you know, promote, but in this case I'll make an exception
Yeah.
because he's being such a good sport.
Yeah.
And I'm like, come on, really? I bet you're trying to take a piece of that.
Probably.
I don't know, but
I'm
I
sure,
just
like-
don't approve. I don't like. I mean, I don't. I mean, this happens all the time, right? Like this is not the first time it's a lower belt has tapped out a higher belt, right? It's not the first time. It won't be the last time. But like this, I don't like. I don't approve of like letting somebody monetize
Do you
any
know
of this
Do
bullshit.
you know how hard it is to make a good meme though?
I don't care.
I feel like here's what I think happened. Like simplest explanation. The guy posted the thing.
Yeah.
The meme happened. It blew up and went viral.
Yes. In that little page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude made some calls. Set up like found a designer. Just slapped something on a
Yeah,
t-shirt.
yeah.
Burned it overnight.
Yeah. No. He's an entrepreneur. Sure.
Right.
I'm not. Okay. Fine.
Slap some stuff. Send an email to the owner of the site. Hey, can I promote my product on here?
Yeah.
I'll give you 10%.
Yeah, no, that I agree. Look, I'm apocalyptically conspiratorial minded person.
Yeah.
That is probably the right explanation, but regardless of how it went down, whether or not it's totally innocent or total, you know, engineered,
Mhm.
you know, Machiavellian experiment, either way, I personally am against letting like any of that crap.
What do you mean?
Like, I don't think that you should in any way be rewarded for like talking smack like that.
Really? Are you sure?
I mean, I just don't like it. I think it's disrespectful. I think it's super disrespectful. I mean, there's a reason why. There's a reason
We
why
just
people
had a
frown.
conversation about this though.
What?
And you had the opposite stance.
What was that?
We're like, as long as it's financially incentive enough, not being humble is perfectly reasonable.
No.
Yeah, you were like, oh, it makes sense
No, but that's
for,
like in
for
the-
athletes.
Yes,
and
that's a
stuff.
totally different.
Yeah, this guy's not an athlete.
No, what I'm
he's
coming
an
from is the
entrepreneur.
perspective. I'm coming from the perspective of the interest of like the sport.
Yeah.
Right? The interest of the idea of respect amongst students and athletes, right?
Yeah.
I would not want to encourage anybody,
Yeah.
whatever their rank or experience, to like try to do what this guy has
Of
done.
course, and they won't,
Right.
because everybody understands that what he did was, like, what he said was wrong.
This is what's gonna happen. He's gonna get away with it, and then it's slippery slope, and a bunch of other people are gonna try to do it.
Maybe, but like,
Right?
the community wouldn't tolerate that.
Yeah, they're
Like-
already
this,
tolerating.
This guy is funny because it's novel. Like, it's funny because like everybody should know that that's not how a
Well, I give the guy credit in the sense that he didn't just like crumble and like leave the sport forever,
Yeah.
right? Because he's hated, you know, which he's not really hated.
Maybe he actually understood that what he was saying was ridiculous, and he actually has a sense of humor.
Could be.
We all just don't get it.
I'm not gonna buy a single thing from him. You guys can all buy whatever you want or tolerate or whatever. I don't want to have anything to do with him.
I mean,
I'm totally against it. I think,
you don't have to
I
make
think,
any
you know what?
adjustments. You don't have to.
I don't care if you're the higher level, the lower level, whatever level, you shouldn't be bragging about any of that shit.
Unless it's funny, because that was funny. It was pretty funny.
You know what, I don't even see, it's even at the high levels, you don't even see, other than Gordon Ryan, you know? And he only gets away with it because he's the best.
Yeah, and it's not funny when he does it, because it's just like,
But it's kind of fun now.
sometimes he gets a good one, but like, it's not like this, where it's funny due to this person's complete lack of awareness.
Is it? Or maybe he's very
I mean, Gordon's lack of awareness is also funny, but like, yeah, but you're right, it could be both. It could be like he's playing on the white belt, two-stroke white belt trope, the archetype.
Maybe he's not even really a two-star white belt. Maybe he's a black belt. Maybe he's one of these like, I snuck into the, I'm like an MMA fighter, I snuck into the academy as a joke.
Maybe he's just a
That would
learner,
be fun.
and he's experimenting with using really, what's the word, obscure communities, memes.
Maybe.
And
He's
just
a
like,
performance artist.
yeah, that'd be
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, maybe.
I respect
Either
that.
way, I don't like it.
No, but like if an outsider, like a person who didn't do jiu-jitsu came in,
I don't like
analyzed
it.
the community,
I don't like
made that
outsiders.
meme,
I don't
I'd
like
be
outsiders.
impressed.
I don't like outsiders.
It'd be impressive.
They scare me and they make me angry.
But I think like it fully encapsulates like that a white belt, like it's best to not say those things. You
No,
know?
because this guy's gonna make a lot of money.
No, I don't think that'll be the result. Like this is like that he makes money off of it isn't because now people are gonna think that this.
Here's the
behavior is
problem,
It's because
Alex.
everybody understands. that this behavior is
Here's what
inappropriate.
really the rub of it for me, right? Is I don't know, maybe I'm overreacting, right? I
You're
know.
just back as you didn't think of it.
What's that?
Because it was easy. It took this guy like
He's
4
much smarter than
seconds
I am.
and like
He's
3
God bless him.
phone calls, and he's making like.
He can do whatever he wants. I'm not really worried about him per se. I have nothing. I don't know him. I don't have anything personal against him. Here's the problem, right? That I see, right? Which is the premise of jiu-jitsu to me, right? Is that anybody can walk through the door. Anybody, you know, almost anybody, and they can get on the mat, and they are not going to get absolutely murdered
Yeah.
just because it's their first day,
As long as
or
they
their
make-
second day, or their third month, or 10th month, or whatever, right? You can come to a jiu-jitsu. Now it might be rough. You might get handled, right? Like, but no one is just gonna like wreck you. And if you're a white belt, right, and you've been training for a year, or a blue belt, you've been training for 2 or 3 years, no one like you're gonna have your days on the mat, good days and bad days, and you're gonna roll with guys that are much better than you, and you know you're gonna have whatever the normal course of we've all been through, right? And you can go and you can train with really good people that have a lot of experience. And if you come in with good intentions, they're gonna tap you out all the time, but they're not gonna hurt you, right? Unless you misbehave. If you misbehave, you're probably gonna get hurt. If you're a jerk, they're gonna. So now what I'm concerned about is this cultural change, if you will, where if a higher level person has to always kind of be concerned that you are gonna like pull this crap.
That is the danger.
There's like a social contract that we have, that we don't just, we let people play, we let them train, and every so often, you're gonna pay the price because you're being nice to somebody. Every so often, someone is gonna catch you. Maybe because you're just not going as hard as you possibly can. And when they blow you up, right, what happens? You get pissed off.
Oh,
you get pissed off.
That happened to me too. It was Chuck, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I remember that.
yeah,
Yeah, I forget. Did he catch me?
yes.
When?
I don't know, but he took a photograph and he put it on, he circulated it.
Photograph.
Don't you remember? He like photoshopped it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did he really catch me though?
I don't know, but the video was that he did, or not video, it was the image.
Oh, it was like when you have to tap or something, and he made a meme, and it was
Yeah.
interesting.
So I wasn't bringing that up specifically, but like there is, like I said, there's a social contract, there's an agreement that I think you don't talk about who beats who in the training room usually amongst yourselves.
Yeah.
Maybe you do, but like I would never there was lots of things that happened at Henzo's that like I wouldn't tell a broader audience.
Yeah.
Because first of all, it's none of other people's business. Even if it's like kind of interesting, it's also disrespectful to people who are in the training room because I don't know what their mindset was. I don't know what they were doing. I see what I see, but I don't necessarily know everything I need to know. And it's also just like, why am I
airiness, right? Like that's not cool.
Yeah.
And if you have people that feel that this is now okay, I can go out and talk crap about somebody, or it's not even that they do that, it's that the higher belts have to worry about it. Then what happens is we don't go so nice with them anymore, right? And then what happens is that then they don't learn, they don't get better. There's, it's like almost like an adversarial relationship that like, if I even have any kind of inkling that you're trying to clown me, or that you're gonna blow me up on social media, well then we're gonna have a real
war.
We're gonna have a, and it's usually, if you're just beginning, it's not gonna go well for you.
Yeah.
I'm certainly not gonna, even if it's not a real war, because usually with a new person, you're so much better than they are, that it doesn't matter. But I'm not even gonna help you. Like, why would I even help somebody who I think, it's gonna be a greater barrier to like having senior students help lower students, because you have this erosion of this kind of tacit agreement that we're not gonna blow each other up. Like, I don't go around and talk about how I tap somebody out a million times, right? Like, oh, this guy sucks. I mean, I might say that, but I don't say it publicly.
Yeah, it's
Or even,
it's
not
not
even to a
always
wider
bad.
audience within the gym.
It's bad if they disagree, or if they feel like they shouldn't have been tapped by that person.
I mean, all that stuff doesn't matter, right? It's just like, to me, the concern overriding is that we have an agreement that we're not going to blow each other up too badly, too widely. And I don't know who this I don't even know if this purple belt really exists, but I mean, if I were a higher belt in that gym, like, I fear for that dude's life. I don't know what kind of gym he comes from, but I mean, I also have questions about like, how good was this? Like, who's this purple belt? Because I don't know that many. I mean, there's special circumstances, whatever. But, and that would make it even shitty. Like, if this guy is like some sort of like, he's a purple belt, but he's 87 years old, right? Or whatever. Missing both arms. I don't know. Like, but if I were at that kid's gym,
I definitely.
I would murder him. I would there would never be a moment that I would let that kid, if I could help it until my dying day, I would just make it my personal mission to like tap him out relentlessly for his, not even to punish, but just to make sure that I'm not getting clowned. You know what I mean? Like that.
But yeah, that's what I experienced with Chuck. Like every role after that, we eventually developed a sense of like, at least, I wouldn't say respect, because I don't think I respect him, I don't think he respects me. And we were able to like talk.
Yeah.
Cordially.
Did he ever apologize to you?
No.
Man.
No, I settled with annoying him as much as I could. So we had a weird relationship, because we were coworkers.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I could like
kind of rib him all the time.
Not like rib him, but I knew the things that he didn't appreciate. So you just highlight those.
A little extracurricular jiu-jitsu.
But I didn't murder him, but I did, I think from that point, like, take roles with him very seriously.
Yeah.
Probably more than I normally would have now in that same situation.
You're not a malicious person. I mean, you can go hard. You can be, you're very competitive. But you're also, you're also a pretty considerate training partner, right? In the right context, right? If I come after you, you're gonna respond in kind. But if we're just rolling, you teach a lot. Well, whether or not you're doing it explicitly or not, you're a very good teacher within a role, right? Even without words. So, people miss out on that. If all you're doing is like saying like, okay, I'm just gonna not let you get past, first base. I'm not gonna let you get to first base.
It does disrupt the conversation almost, like the back and forth. It becomes
there's no reason to create that kind of animosity amongst anybody. Not even, if you're a blue belt and you're doing this to a black belt, that's stupid. But if you're a white belt and a purple belt, that's dumb too. Because the other purple belts are paying attention.
What Chuck would do, and maybe other people, and this might not be true, but what I thought was happening was that he wanted to put himself in more arduous circumstances. And I think by like making me upset, he knew that I would go as hard as I could against him. And I don't think he valued his personal relationship with me enough to not be willing.
He could just ask you nicely, hey, can you go super hard with me? I don't think you need to piss somebody off. or be disrespectful to somebody.
Probably not always, but Chuck and I had I think, a little longer history together. You know.
Well, you know,
It was weird.
I'm just saying it's not, from my perspective, from outside looking in, I would not have advised him to do that.
I wouldn't say it was the best.
I don't think it's a wise thing.
It's-
And you know, like, and I pay attention to it. I lost respect since we're calling him out by name. You know, I don't think he's a bad guy,
No.
right? But like when he did that, I was like, other people paid attention, right? And I was like, I'm not gonna get conned by Chuck. You know what I mean? This
Yeah.
is how you're gonna act. Okay.
Yeah, but he got tough. He got
No,
tough.
I mean he's tough. I'm not disrespecting. I would say the same thing to him if he was standing in front of me right now. You know, like you didn't lose. You lost that camaraderie, if you will, right? That willingness to put yourself in a bad position or help somebody out or not go as hard or you know not take things as seriously as you know when I'm rolling with a lot of people. It's like I'm not going 100 miles an hour. I'm trying to help them out. And, you know,
The benefit of the doubt.
you get the benefit of the doubt. Yeah, that's a good point. It was good.
That's the word I was trying to think of.
Now it's fine if you want to like after. I mean, it's dangerous too. But if you want to like you know like hey Kevin, remember yesterday when I caught you? You know, you better watch out today. Like if you keep that on the DL and you just make it a personal joke between you guys, like that might also get you murdered, but it might also be humorous and you know.
It depends on how you say it. Yeah, and who you are and what your relationship has been. I don't know. Yeah.
Man, I'm telling you, I would be interested to see what the reaction is at the gym that he's at.
I'm just super proud of him for being so reactive with his meme status, and he's able to start a small company off something that's probably
I mean,
gonna last a couple
that's
days.
fine. I mean, whatever. He can do what he wants to do. I'm just saying,
Not
this is not the direction that I think is a good direction for
Oh yeah, it's
for
terrible for
most people in jiu-jitsu.
It's not ideal. I do disagree with you that it will. I don't think it will push people towards that type of behavior. Because again, like the reason.
No, because
that
not
it's
every
funny-
higher belt is going to murder every lower belt.
Nah, like the reason that it's funny is that everybody understands that the behavior is unacceptable, and
Apparently, it's acceptable. Apparently,
no, it's
people are.
not acceptable. Like that's why it's funny. It's acceptable to look at and to like analyze and discuss, but no one's looking at that and being like, I don't get it. That's just how things should be done. You know?
Some people are. Hey, it's a big community.
Yeah, probably there are exceptions to.
I don't know. I wonder if we had anybody watching what their opinions are. Oh, maybe we do have some opinions. What's up? I was playing World of Warcraft. Oh, really? World of Warcraft, huh? Cool. I used to play a lot of World of Warcraft until it got to the point where it was like a second job. And then I was like, I don't get paid for this job. And I'm working really hard at it. So I'm going to quit. Anyway, have a good weekend. See you guys Monday. Monday. Is it Monday? Is there a holiday on Monday?
Is Valentine's Day happening?
No, that's like next week. And that's not like a